Behind James Bond's explosive debut in Dr. No hides a collection of secrets that changed cinema forever. From shocking behind-the-scenes struggles to hidden details, these are the untold facts that'll blow you away.
Bond. James Bond.
Producers didn't want Sean Connery at first. They considered Cary Grant for James Bond. Grant was a Hollywood legend, but he refused a multi-film deal. Other names included David Niven and Patrick McGoohan. Connery was a risky pick. He was unknown outside Britain. He had a rough image. He wasn't polished like Grant. But director Terrence Young groomed him. He taught Connery refinement. He introduced him to Savile Row suits. He shaped his walk and manners. Connery transformed into Bond. Audiences instantly believed him. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Connery became a global star. He defined the role for decades. The casting set the template for Bond. But casting Bond wasn't the only challenge. The famous Bond girl was nearly impossible to secure.
What are you doing here? Looking for shells?
Ursula Andress became iconic as Honey Rider. Her white bikini scene made history, but her voice wasn't hers. Producers felt her accent was too strong. They had actress Nikki van der Zyl dub her. The voice was completely replaced. Audiences never knew at first. The combination worked seamlessly. Andress still became a superstar. Her entrance from the sea was unforgettable. It redefined the role of the Bond girl. She became a global sex symbol. Merchandise exploded with her image. The bikini was sold for $60,000 decades later. It became the most famous swimsuit in cinema. Her impact was immediate. The dubbing remained a hidden fact. It didn't hurt her fame. It created an illusion of perfection. Andress embodied glamour forever. But while Andress shone, the villain's voice was also completely fake.
You were wondering what it cost?
As a matter of fact, I was.
Joseph Wiseman played Dr. Number. He looked menacing on screen, but his real voice wasn't used. Producers thought it sounded wrong. Actor Robert Reedy dubbed all his lines. It gave the villain a cold tone. Audiences never realized the switch. Wiseman provided presence. Reedy provided menace. Together, they created an unforgettable villain. It was one of Bond's creepiest foes. The dubbing became a Bond tradition. Many early characters were dubbed. It added mystery. It hid imperfections. The technique fooled audiences. It created a flawless product. Dr. No's voice became iconic, but it wasn't real. Illusion built Bond's first villain, but even bigger illusions came from the set itself. The locations weren't always what they seemed.
How did it happen? I think they were on their way to a funeral.
Most of the film was shot in Jamaica. It gave Bond exotic flair. The beaches became legendary. Local culture added authenticity. But not all scenes were real. Many Jamaican sets were built at Pinewood Studios. The lair of Dr. No was constructed entirely in England. The mix fooled audiences. They believed it was all tropical. Jamaica became forever tied to Bond. Tourism increased after release. Fans still visit the beaches today. GoldenEye, Ian Fleming's estate, was nearby. It connected fiction to reality. The island became Bond's birthplace. It shaped the franchise's image. Exotic locales became a tradition. The formula began in Jamaica. Bond was forever global. It started with a single island. But one iconic prop wasn't even from Jamaica. It came from a toy shop. The opening gun barrel is iconic, but it wasn't Connery in the first film. A stuntman, Bob Simmons, performed it. Connery was busy filming. Simmons wore a tuxedo. He fired toward the camera. The shot created the legendary sequence. It became Bond's trademark. Connery only filmed his own version later. The trick fooled audiences. The illusion became canon. The barrel shot appeared in every Bond film. It symbolized danger. It symbolized Bond. The stuntman became immortal. Few realized it wasn't Connery. It was cinematic sleight of hand. Bond's myth was built on tricks. The first shot defined the franchise. But the budget forced even more tricks, because this blockbuster was dirt cheap to make.
Forgive me. I thought I was invited up here to admire the view.
Bond films are known for extravagance, but Dr. No was modest. Its budget was just $1 million. That was tiny even for 1962. Sets had to be reused. Special effects were minimal. Explosions were small scale, but creativity compensated. Designers used bright colors. They built clever illusions. The movie looked more expensive than it was. Audiences never noticed. The box office was huge. It earned $60 million worldwide. It was a massive success. The profit launched a franchise. Low risk became high reward. Bond proved cheap films could dominate. It redefined blockbusters. The small film birthed a giant, but its success wasn't guaranteed. Critics originally hated the movie. Critics weren't kind in 1962.
This one is worth $50 in Miami. 50.
They called it violent. They called it trashy. Some said it was a passing fad. British papers mocked Connery. They doubted audiences would care. The sexual innuendo shocked some. The violence felt excessive. The reviews were harsh, but audiences ignored critics. They packed theaters. Word of mouth spread. The film became a sensation. It proved critics wrong. Bond became a phenomenon. The reviews were forgotten. The money spoke louder. The public crowned Bond king. The backlash turned to respect. The haters fueled its rise. But if critics doubted Bond, one author hated it even more. Ian Fleming himself. Fleming created James Bond, but he didn't like Connery. He thought Connery was too rough. He wanted David Niven instead. He thought Connery lacked refinement. He called him an overgrown stuntman. But audiences loved Connery. Fleming changed his mind later. He wrote Bond's backstory differently. He gave him Scottish roots. He tied it to Connery's heritage. It was a nod to the actor. Fleming grew to respect him. He admitted Connery worked. The criticism faded. The writer embraced the star. Bond evolved with Connery's influence. Fiction adapted to reality. The dislike turned to admiration. Connery became inseparable from Bond. But while Connery won over Fleming, he nearly lost the role after an explosive argument.
Well, whatever he was from, news of my arrival leaked. Well, we didn't advertise it, I can assure you.
Connery was new to fame. He had a fiery temper. He wanted more input. He argued about costumes. He argued about lines. He hated being controlled. Producers grew frustrated. Tensions nearly boiled over. Director Terrence Young calmed it down. He became Connery's mentor. He guided him patiently. He refined his performance. Connery listened reluctantly, but he grew into the role. The clash became history. Bond needed Connery's raw energy. He brought danger to the role. The rough edges worked. The fights didn't stop success. It only added fire. But Connery's fiery presence wasn't the only danger. The stunts nearly killed people on set. One of the scariest moments shows Bond in bed. A tarantula crawls across him. Connery was terrified of spiders. He refused to do it. A stunt double was used instead. They placed a real tarantula on his body. The scene was dangerous. The venom could kill. The stuntman risked his life. Connery's close-up shots were faked. They used glass for safety. But some shots were real. Audiences squirmed in fear. The spider became legendary. It was one of Bond's creepiest moments. The danger was genuine. It wasn't Hollywood trickery. It was real risk. The spider gave Bond chills forever. One insect created legend. But even more dangerous was the censorship battle that almost killed the movie.
When did you say you had to leave?
Immediately.
The 1960s were strict on film content. Censors targeted Dr. No for violence. They cut scenes with suggestive dialogue. Some love scenes were shortened. The torture imagery was trimmed. Even Bond's innuendo worried them. But producers fought back. They argued it was tame. Audiences wanted more spice. Eventually, compromises were made. The film passed censors. It shocked some critics anyway. The controversy fueled publicity. Parents warned kids, kids went anyway. The danger added appeal. Bond became rebellious. The fights with censors became tradition. Future films always pushed limits. It was part of the formula. Censorship couldn't stop 007. But the censorship wasn't the only behind-the-scenes battle. The costumes nearly broke the budget. Bond's tuxedo was revolutionary. Connery wore it with ease. It set a new standard for spies. The look became timeless. Savile Row tailoring refined it. The suits were expensive. They consumed much of the wardrobe budget. Producers debated costs, but they realized style mattered. Bond wasn't just action, he was elegance. Audiences copied his look. Tuxedo sales spiked. Connery became a fashion symbol. The suits defined his character. Even the swimsuit worn by Andress became iconic. Fashion houses thanked the movie. It changed wardrobes worldwide. Bond became synonymous with style. The legacy began with clothes. But style wasn't enough. The film needed a theme song that would define a legend. Monty Norman composed it. John Barry arranged it. The surf rock guitar defined it. Audiences were electrified. It became Bond's anthem forever. The music added swagger. It made Bond cooler. It gave him attitude. It was instantly recognizable. The theme was reused endlessly. It became part of pop culture. Norman's work was debated for years. Barry's arrangement made it iconic. Lawsuits over credit lasted decades. But the sound survived. It gave Bond identity. It created cinematic history. No spy theme rivaled it. It began with Doctor, Number. One track changed soundtracks forever. But the music wasn't the only thing echoing. Real explosions nearly destroyed the set. The finale featured massive blasts. The villain's lair erupted. Special effects were risky. Charges were set too close. Some went off early. Crew members were nearly hurt. Stuntmen ran for safety. Sets caught fire instantly. The chaos was real. The danger was intense. The explosions looked spectacular, but they almost halted filming. Safety rules were looser then. Directors demanded bigger blasts. The risk thrilled audiences. The crew survived barely. The finale burned into history. The danger became part of Bond tradition. Explosions became a franchise hallmark. It started with Doctor, Number. The fire birthed fireworks for decades. But danger wasn't just on set. The studio feared Bond would fail financially. Executives had little faith. They saw Bond as niche. They doubted global appeal. They feared British spies wouldn't sell. The budget reflected doubts. Marketing was minimal. The UK premiere was modest. But lines formed quickly. Audiences were hooked. The box office soared. Word spread internationally. The profits shocked executives. They rushed to greenlight sequels. Bond became a golden franchise. United artists celebrated unexpectedly. Their doubts vanished overnight. The underdog crushed competition. Failure turned into fortune. Bond rewrote studio confidence. The spy became savior. But while studios learned, audiences were introduced to shocking on-screen violence for the time. Bond killed without hesitation. He shot Professor Dent in cold blood. It stunned viewers. Heroes weren't supposed to execute. It showed Bond's ruthlessness. The moment defined him. It set him apart from other heroes. Audiences whispered in shock, but they also loved it. The edge thrilled them. It made Bond dangerous. It made him unpredictable. Critics called it immoral. Fans called it bold. The controversy boosted ticket sales. It showed Bond wasn't clean-cut. He played by his own rules. The violence shaped his identity. It became part of his legend. Bond was dangerous from the start. But danger came in another form. Lawsuits nearly ended Bond before it began. Before Dr. No, Bond rights were messy. Producer Kevin McClory had clashed with Ian Fleming. They fought over scripts. Court cases dragged on. The battles shaped Bond history. Certain stories couldn't be used. Thunderball became locked in disputes, even during Doctor No, lawyers circled. The franchise began under shadows. But producers pushed forward. They gambled despite risks. The legal fights lasted decades. They resurfaced with Never Say Never Again. Ownership was always contested. Bond was born in conflict. The brand survived anyway. It thrived despite lawsuits. The courts couldn't stop 007. Legal drama mirrored spy drama. The battles became legend. Bond outlived the lawyers. But surviving lawsuits wasn't enough. The casting of villains carried its own secrets. Dr. No was the template. Cold, calculating, and exotic. He had a secret lair. He had grand ambitions. He spoke calmly, menacingly. Every villain copied elements. Blofeld, Goldfinger, Silva, echoes of Dr. No. The formula started instantly. Audiences loved larger-than-life enemies. They wanted stylish danger. The archetype shaped cinema. Villains became stars. Bond needed equal opposition. Dr. No proved it. The casting mattered as much as Bond. The blueprint was born. The franchise never abandoned it. The villain became mythic. Every film honored Dr. No. The first foe set the rules. The legacy lived forever. But the biggest legacy came from something no one expected: the global spy craze. The 1960s exploded with spies. TV shows imitated Bond. Movies copied the formula. The man from UNCLE appeared. So did Matt Helm. Even parodies like Our Man Flint. Bond fever gripped the world. The craze began with Dr. No. The trend lasted a decade. Spies flooded pop culture. Everyone wanted their own Bond. No one matched 007's success. The imitators faded. Bond endured. The craze showed his impact. It wasn't just a film, it was a movement. The ripple shaped decades. One movie started it all. Bond became a cultural juggernaut. But the final hidden fact is the most shocking. Bond was nearly killed off before he even began. The studio doubted sequels. They planned a single film. They even debated killing Bond. They thought it would be bold. But Fleming resisted. He wanted longevity. The producers agreed reluctantly. They chose survival instead. That choice saved the franchise. Bond lived to fight again. Sequels followed quickly. Goldfinger and From Russia, with love exploded. The brand became unstoppable. The near death was forgotten. Bond's survival was cinema's salvation. Killing him would end it all. Instead, he thrived for 60 years. The legend began with survival. It was history's smartest decision. Bond cheated death from the start. And that's when everyone realized Dr. No didn't just launch a movie, it launched an immortal legend.